Life is hard, and so am I. You better give me something so I don't die.
Hey, it's Mazzy and welcome back. And this is a Mazzy's Mix video. Mazzy's Mix number 11, I believe. And on these videos, if you've been watching, you know what I'm talking about. But this is where I just show some new releases, new records I've got. Some used. I don't think there are a lot of used in this case today, but I think there's one. And then also I showcase things that I've gotten in the mail from some friends. And I do usually a little featurette. I pick one artist or a genre or something and show a little bit in the middle. We'll see if that happens here. Of course, I already know if it's going to happen or not. And then I read some comments and respond to the comments. So it's a it's a potpourri, as I've said before. It's a trail mix, and I hope you like it. And it's just current events. So here we go. Okay, let's talk about new records now. I think I want to jump right in and do sort of the new records I've gotten over the last several weeks first. And this is one that I really enjoyed. This is Prince, Welcome to America. These fully realized record that was recorded in 2010 that he never put out. I did a video, and I'll link it below, recently, a great conversation with John Downing in the UK. And this guy knows Prince more than anyone else I know. Not just Prince as the artist, as the man, but his music. He knows every track on every issue that he did during the Warner Brothers years, during his self logo years when he was putting out music himself. And that's a really interesting conversation that I had with John. And it's a video just a couple of days ago, but I'll link it below. And it's an hour conversation. It's not just the best of Prince albums. We end with this and we talk about this. I really like this record. It's a double album. There's some really great kind of funk to it, like Parliament in a way. There's some soulness. It's a very upbeat, a little bit of a sparseness to it. But again, a fully realized record. This particular copy, I mean, it's a double record, and it's colored vinyl, which I don't know all the doodah about indie versus the different pressings, but I tell you, it sounds fabulous, and it's a lovely, lovely pressing. Flat, quiet. I have no issues with it, and the back is one of those etchings. So it's three sides of an album by Prince. And Welcome to America. What's also great about this America is very topical. It's very political. About people getting overtaxed or undertaxed, the wrong people, the classes. Again, 11 years ago, and we're kind of in the same boat, only magnified. Probably an album that's my guess is gonna be the biggest selling album 2021, is the second full album by Billie Eilish. Now, I'm a big fan of Billie Eilish, and there's a lot of people that just think she's just another pop young ingenue. And it's not the deal. She's the real deal. Her and her brother Phineas, who produces and records these records and plays a lot of the instrumentation, or most of it, they're just a dynamic duo. The first record, I mean, she did have an EP, and there's a live Third Man set. And there's a great documentary on Apple TV, which is long, a little self-indulgent, but really you get a good sense of the work that they're both putting in, especially what she's putting in, but her brother too, and the family in Southern California. This is a wonderful record. It's more intimate and more low-key than the first full album that has more, beats and bass and pop, I guess is the word. I don't know. There's a lot of personal things. She's writing about personal situations. This is called Happier Than Ever. And what's great about this is this photograph of her with this tear, with this, bleach blonde hair. Now, I like every bit of this. Double LP, really lovely. Again, another in this, we're going in the kind of the creams and the colors. I realize with this, the Prince, and the next record, there's sort of an ochre, yellowish, orangey, sienna color thing happening right this year on vinyl, which is, I don't know if that's just a coincidence. But the only fault I have with this record, and help me out there, this is such beautiful photography. I can't find a credit for the photographer on here. I looked on the credits inside after at the end about the production and about the management, but I can't find the photographer. And I, being a photo agent, I think that's an important thing. Unless it's like slipped in here, I swear to God, I looked almost everywhere. And if I missed it, I feel, maybe I missed it. So can you help me? Those of you out there who photographed these images. Great packaging, beautiful presentation. Now this is a record, this is interesting. I'm a big fan of Los Lobos, and I would argue that they're the best American group still standing with all of the original members. From East LA, they go into some jammy stuff, rock and roll, Tejana and Tex-Mex, and just great stuff. They do records in English, they do records in Spanish. They're the real deal. This is their debut on New West Records. This just came out. Love these guys. I've seen them 5-6 times, and they do a jamming side of things too. And this is really a homage also to LA, and they take pride in LA. But again, we're getting into this kind of brown type of stock palette now. I think most of this was recorded during a lockdown, as I recall. And again, the final side has this kind of really lovely etching. Some people don't like the etchings, but I mean, it's great to spread this stuff out, to not try to cram it on a one record, for the audiophile quality to it, if there is any of that. This was cut by Ryan K. Smith, so it's a nice LP cut, flat, really good. Now, let me talk about this album. It's an album of covers. And it's got these great covers. Those of you of a certain age will know about Bluebird, and For What It's Worth, these two great Buffalo Springfield songs. They do sort of a bit of a medley on that. They do Jamaica Say You Will, a song that I think I first heard by Tom Rush, but it's written by Jackson Browne, and the Byrds covered it. Beautiful song. They do Farmer John. They do Sail on Sailor, the great song by the Beach Boys. It's out around 1971, I believe. Is that on Surf's Up, or is that, no, on Holland, one of those two. The World is a Ghetto, of course, the great song by War. Now, really great renditions. My only criticism to this album, I would say, is the covers are too close to the originals. They don't make them their own, but they have great vocals. I mean, Louis Perez, David Hidalgo, Cesar Rosas, just great vocalists, all of them. Conrad Lozano, Steve Berlin plays on saxes and keyboards. So they do a great rendition of these songs, but whenever I've seen them, they do merge covers within their own material, and it's fabulous. So big fan of Los Lobos. This is a highly recommended record. If you like those songs, great, but even if you don't know them, that probably even brings some extra pleasure to these recordings. But they're pretty faithful, maybe too faithful. Again, that's my only light criticism of this Los Lobos album. Now, continuing on with another tone poet is this. Now, this is a tone poet, a later one from 1968. This is McCoy Tyner. So it doesn't have session photos. That's why it's not a gatefold, but it's still a Stoughton tipped-on cover. I'm not a big fan of the cover image, but I gotta say, this is probably one of my top 5 or 6 tone poets. I played this 3 times this weekend, and I blasted this. This opens up when you turn it loud. What an intense swinging set. From 1968, it doesn't have the soulful trappings, which is not a bad thing of soul jazz. It's not that at all. So it has a foot more into early 60s jazz, but it's a driving record, and it's really a grooving record, almost rockin', but it's not rock and roll. It sounds fabulous. Of course, McCoy Tyner, I'd seen several times in the 70s, and just really really is an intense piano player. We used to refer to him live as the sort of the Led Zeppelin of piano, of keyboard player, jazz players, because he's really hard on the keys. But even on side two where the horns pop in like pretty intensely, they're not harsh. Like they shock you for a moment, but they're not harsh. Wayne Shorter's on tenor sax on here, Gary Bart's on alto sax and flute, Woody Shaw on trumpet. So you got, these three horn players. You got Ron Carter playing cello throughout, which adds a nice, and Herbie Lewis on bass and Freddie Watts on drums. So it's really a kick-ass, wonderful record. So this could be something, if you're just slipping into jazz and you're a rock fan, this could be something. Again, it's not fusion, it's not rock and roll fusion, but this McCoy Tyner record, Expansions, is fabulous. And it's a new Tone Poet release. Ricarda, who's in Germany now, turned me on to this. And it's a record I remember seeing, but I never heard it. I think we were having a discussion about the Monterey Jazz Festival that I attended several times. And this is obviously a recording I never went to, or a show I didn't go to, but I'd seen John Handy in the 70s, a little later than this. This is a set he did at the Monterey Jazz Festival in the late 60s, I believe. And the liner notes here are by Ralph J. Gleason, who was the great critic of the San Francisco Chronicle and a co-founder of Rolling Stone magazine with Jan Wenner. Fantastic. It's got some Eastern sounds, some and rhythms too, and it's just a fantastic live record. Love this record, and thank you, Ricarda, for turning me on to it. Okay, here's the featurette part of the show, and I'm going to talk about E. I'm going to show records from E. Who the hell is E? E. Mark Oliver Everett, otherwise known as E, otherwise known as Eels, the Eels. Now, my introduction to the Eels was MTV Video, and they came around in the early, the early to mid 90s, and I think the first album was 1996, as far as I recall, under the name Eels. There was a great video on MTV called Novocaine for the Soul, the opening track here. What a fantastic song. Mark Oliver Everett is the founding member, the lead singer. It's really a project of his. He's the only continuous member. So he actually first put out 2 albums, A Man Called E and Broken Toy Shop. He's got this raspy voice. He's acted a bit in some kind of offbeat kilter TV shows and films. His music, a big claim to fame, and good for him and his label when he was on DreamWorks, pushing his music. I think his music's been in a lot of movies like Shrek and other things. His stuff is very catchy. He's got a raspy voice. It's very accessible, but it's really that LA alternate 90s thing happening and beyond. And I've seen him twice at the Fillmore. One of the first early shows in the late 90s, early 2000s, I brought my son to see, because my son just loves the Eels, or here is Eels, Beautiful Freak. So fantastic record. Now, these albums are pretty good. He's kind of like finding his way here, but he's really a great songwriter. His songs aren't very complicated, but they're very, very accessible. So most of his records I've gotten on CD, almost every Eels records, but let me go through these a little bit first. I'll go through my vinyl first, and so everything's going to be out of order. One of my favorite albums is this, Soul Jacker. So he's got like this folk rock indie sensibilities with some hip hop, trip hop thrown in too. And again, it's very funny, very catchy. His sister committed suicide at one point, so his stuff is very sometimes downer about breakups, about family loss, personal loss. But he does it in sort of a humorous, morbid way, if that makes any sense. This opens up with a really funny kind of a great riff that you've probably heard a million times in other songs, but Dog Face Boy, which is really great. That's Not Really Funny, Woman Driving, Man Sleeping. So he gets into some sort of romantic, intimate ballads as well. Soul Jacker, obviously, part 1 and part 2 on here. But Teenage Witch, it's really funny. He's got this great sense of humor. And for a while, I couldn't find this. I mean, I think I first found it as an import here. I think I was in Chicago when I picked this CD up. So I just love that. But this is amongst my favorite.
Coming home from school today, crying all along the way. Ain't no way for a boy to be, begging mama to shave me, please. You little punks think you own this town. Well, someday someone's gonna bring you down. Life ain't pretty for a dog-faced boy. Life ain't pretty for a dog-faced boy. You take back what you said now. That's the last time I cry. You don't know what it is to be a friend now. Till I walk beside you on the street now. Mom won't shave me, Jesus can't save me, dog-faced boy.
Oh shit, I'm gonna go with the CDs out of order anyway. But I love, this album is great too. I need to pick these up on vinyl. I haven't for whatever reason, but I love this Eels cover, Daisies of the Galaxy. It looks like isn't there a Melvins cover very similar like to that? Another great record, Grace Kelly Blues, Daisies of the Galaxy. Again, very catchy and very dark, but the music is upbeat, the lyrics are dark. Shootin' Annie, another one. Electroshock Blues. I mean, come on. I mean, he's probably like, in a way, a modern day Warren Zevon, where he's not the same, but he's got this irony to it, but he's more it's like therapy records, whereas Warren Zevon was singing about a lot of other shit and historic and social references. Mark Oliver Everett, is singing about these personal tragedies. So I don't know why I cling on to that, but I quite like it a lot. Blinking Lights, this is a double record. This was, I think, from his side Electroshock Blues show. I think this was a live set, as I recall. That's kind of a cool thing. Live at Town Hall with strings. So sometimes he's done things on his own with orchestration. Really good. Again, another one, End Times. Hombre Lobo, 12 Songs of Desire. I mean, this guy is really like, lost love, lost life, lost family. But beautiful records and beautiful packages. He's done some things directly on the websites. Now, these are fun. This is Essential Eels Volume 1. This has a DV live set on here as well, or DV videos on here, Novocaine for the Soul. So it's got some of the music videos, the MTV days. And Susan's House is on here, which is really good. I mean, there's a tragedy in that first album. That first album, again, I think is brilliant. There's some stuff on here. And then Useless Trinkets, B-Side, Soundtracks, Rarities, and Unreleased, Volume 2. And this is a double CD. Fantastic stuff. Now, before I get into the rest of the vinyl, I need to show this because I don't know if this ever came out on vinyl, but I fucking love this. And this is MC Honky. This is I Am the Messiah, MC Honky. This is basically E done as a kind of a mix, sampling, hip-hop, rap-ish style, avant-garde indie record. It's great. There's tapes of, of phone recorded messages and things, be Elephant Rockabye. It's just a fantastic mashup type record, and I would love to get this on vinyl, although the CD is fabulous. So if you ever see this, pick it up. It's fun. Is it dated? Maybe, but MC Honky, and that's E. Look at this. That's wonderful, 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 wonderful. Love this to death. And just going through some of the other records I have. Live at the Royal Albert Hall, the Eels live at the Royal Albert Hall. And this is a 3 LP set, fantastic setup. Again, if you ever get a chance to see them live, see them live. Eels perform the cautionary tales of Mark Oliver Everett. And this is has a 1 album and a 2nd bonus album with some live stuff too, and alternate musings by E. And lastly, his newest album that came out during lockdown, and it's the scariest album cover ever made. So I just want to warn you now before I show this album cover, make sure your children are out of the room. Make sure the people you care about are all out of the room. Turn the lights up so you're not, frightened too much. And this is the last album called Earth to Dora by Eels. Anyway, that's a little segment on the Eels. Check them out. Love those guys. Love him, those guys, one guy. So that's a segment on the Eels. Love Mark Oliver Everett. Depresso rock and roll. Okay, so here's a segment where I read some comments. And this, that obviously there's some genuine people who have channels, or genuine people who are just viewers that don't have their own channels, but they like to watch these videos. And I say, if you don't enjoy them, move on. And I get it. Not every video I make is sort of geared for everybody. And I have a wide variety of tastes. Obviously, some people dump on my Beatles videos, and I do quite a few, yet considering how many videos I make, really, it's like 5% are Beatles. So it's not that much, but there's been a several Beatle videos, which I'll get to in a little minute. But the first response is kind of an overall response, and I don't know if this is a real person or not, but the commenter's name is Fatty McFatso. That probably is, I don't know if that's like Irish, Scottish, or the Nordic countries, but Fatty McFatso writes, "How come you never answer any of my questions?" ? With a sad face. I try to answer a lot of questions. I don't get to every response, and I just wrote, maybe because your name is Fatty McFatso. I want to say, I thank you for all the viewers who looked at my George Harrison All Things Must Pass Uber box presentation, and then the subsequent review of the remix and the demos and the reissue album. And that, I think I've gotten more views and responses than anything I've done in quite a while. In fact, the Uber box video is over 30,000, 32,000 views now, and quite a lot of responses, most of which were positive. But then I got a bunch of negative reviews and people dumping on things. And I get about the expense and everything. Lumpy Gravy 52 replied, and I suppose there are 51 Lumpy Gravies in front of you? Or are you born in 1952, Mr. Gravy? Or Norman Maslow, no thanks. If I hear My Sweet Lord one more time, I'm going to gag. Fair enough. I love that song. I think it's a great rock and gospel song. That's fair. I get that. I hope you don't gag too much. Now let's talk about Jeffrey Giuliano. I got a series, I think I'm on his radar now because I've got a series of comments, and this guy, Mr. Giuliano, I'm not gonna even fucking pronounce it. I mean, anybody with a similar name like that, deserves to be sort of ridiculed and attacked, because we know about the guy in New York, right? The Trump guy, the lawyer. I know it's spelled different, no relation probably, but you're kind of as whacked out as he is. And I own a lot of your books and a lot of his books. He's written a bunch of, maybe 10 books related to the Beatles. And I've heard, stories of him and read articles about him. And he's like a writer, an actor, a man about town, a bon vivant. I think he might be in the UK or in South Asia. I don't even know where you are now. In fact, search his name out and Wanker, and you'll see this rant he did in a supermarket about 3 or 4 years ago. But anyway, when I did the video, my first video on the presentation of the Uber box, I mentioned Danny Harrison, George's son. And his name is spelled Dhani. And every time I've seen Danny, I was at the concert for George. He's introduced as Danny. And when I saw him on his tour, he's introduced as Danny. I know some people do call him Donnie. And so that entire first video, I called him Danny. And actually, Jeffrey Giuliano wrote, "Hello, his name is not Danny. It's Donnie. The pronunciation is phonetically Donnie. He was named after 2 notes of the Indian scale. Are you apologist for Olivia Harrison? Seems very far afield from George's Hare Krishna anti-material world philosophy. Oh, feel the texture. Very elitist, if you don't mind me respectfully saying. All the best, brother. Stay well. P.S. I understand the obsession, but I kicked it after 32 books. It's Self-Realization Fellowship, SRF, the society founded by one of George's spiritual mentors." And he goes on, and the two don't mix, not one at all. Perhaps Olivia doesn't know the difference. So he's on this rant about the materialism side. And I did get quite a few later responses about, living in the material world and using that George Harrison quote. And I'm not going to defend the estate or anything about the big Uber box and everything. But as I did mention in that first video, first of all, George Harrison lived in Friar Park. The family's a huge friggin' estate, plus house in Hawaii and so on. So the material world thing just doesn't cut nuts, Mr. Giuliani. Plus, he put out 4 books, Genesis books, back in the 80s, which were about $350, $400 a pop. Not defending it, but that's just the fact of it. So it's no difference now. Would he have liked this Uber box? Who knows? And I'll come back to Mr. Giuliano, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing your name wrong. But going back to the Danny thing. So in the second video, I pronounced it Donnie, and I got people correcting me that it's not Donnie, it's Danny. So, I think a lot of people just call him Danny, and I think he uses that quite a bit. But, whatever. Another of the George Harrison Uber box comment, Martin McGrath wrote, "I don't blame fantastics." I think you meant fanatics, but that's okay. "I blame those evil estates, the evil estates." Oh my God. Okay. Here's another one I got from Mr. Schmeltz. Mr. Schmeltz, I think we went to high school together. Is your name Dick Schmeltz? I think Dick Schmeltz and I went to high school together in San Francisco, but I like when someone does all caps because we know how important it is. And he wrote, "Fucking only good Harrison record to make a killing off. It fuck him dead Beatle. Fuck the Beatles. Yes, get to find their missing vault material. Fuck the Beatles." Thank you, Mr. Dick Schmeltz. Chris Burt wrote, on my 40 personal favorite rock and roll songs, I showed this album Green, and I talked about the song Orange Crush. What a great rock and roll song. But I did mention once, What's the Frequency? Kenneth, obviously the Dan Rather song from Monster. And Chris Burt writes, "Let Me Roll is a song about wanking." Okay, actually I knew that. "What the Frequency, Kenneth, is better than Orange Crush." Wrong again, Mazzy. But that's just our opinions. What is this wrong thing? Okay. Okay, we got Mr. Giuliano. Mr. Giuliano back again on another. He went back to my old videos. So not only does he think I'm a wanker in my promotion for the Harrison estate, he's going back and looking at some of my other videos. And I did a video on George Harrison catalog a year or two ago, and he went back to look at it, and he wrote, "If George Harrison's son were not George, Harrison's son wouldn't have any kind of career at all." Well, if you didn't write books on George Harrison and the Beatles, you wouldn't have any career at all either, Mr. Jeffrey Giuliano. With all respects to the Italian heritage of other people. Okay, on the George Harrison All Things Must Pass, the review of the record, my music review, Rilo Martoni wrote, "This guy proves what's wrong with this country. He's talking about me, I think. Just a complete narcissist. LOLOLO. Dullards thinking they have something to offer. Ha ha ha. Crying, laughing, crying. So, I'm one person expressing my opinion. Paul the Lazy Hebe, come on, really? That's lazy. Wrote, LOL, what's actually wrong with you? Are you just that feckless? What's wrong with you? Are you just that feckless? Well, Paul, actually, that's one I ended up deleting because of your really horrible fake name. So there you go. Also on the George Harrison review video, Pharaoh Set writes, dude, the first 8.5 minutes of your video are a complete waste. I want to know about the album, the title of your video, not the history of its influences. That's 8 minutes, 30 seconds of my life I'll never get back. The rest of your review is ponderous. Well, Mr. Pharaoh Set, you're welcome to skip ahead. And 8:30, if people want to skip ahead on the George Harrison All Things Must Pass review, skip ahead. But I like to talk about where the record came from, how it came to be, with the history of the whole gospel rock and roll thing of Delaney and Bonnie and Eric Clapton and the band and a lot of the influences, Bob Dylan's New Morning album. So any yokel can take records and just open them up, play them, and say, oh, I like this. It's too bassy. It's too not bassy enough. It's too this, too that. I wanted to tell some background. Now, if you know all that information, great, move on. And I appreciate that. So that's why I do these videos. And that's why I try to bring some either personal or historic, a little mood to it, a little ambiance to my videos. So that's just my personal taste. I'm getting a lot of comments on this Harrison thing. It really stirred a lot of emotions and a lot of debate, and some people are just angry. But I got a lot of people loving it. So the reality is, I'm showing you the car crash responses, not the really response. If you want to read the comments, do that yourself with some really great people. And people, I found that some people even bought the Uber box after seeing it. And I think the estate should have done that. They should have done like an opening, have someone go through it to begin with before it went on sale. That's just personally my take on that. Okay, Sharp Dressed Van Wright, please, next time do the box cutter and show the styrofoam. It would be a hell of a lot more interesting than this video. Because I don't like to open boxes, so, Okay, well, you watched it, I guess. Jeffrey Giuliano is back. He went back. I did a happy birthday, Sir Paul McCartney, I don't know, a couple years ago. Just a little fun, joking thing. And it's light, the stuff's lighthearted. I think some people take it too seriously or take it personally. And all these videos are just meant to have some fun and enjoyment. And if you learn something along the way, some of you, great. If you get turned on to a record or turned off to a record, so be it too. So this guy who seems to not like what I'm pontificating, what I'm expressing, seems to go through and watch a lot of my videos. He writes on this Sir McCartney's birthday thing, how does it feel to be eternally 13 years old and in love with your favorite rock band? They broke up in 1970. Get over it, dude. Old man in a hat is far from hip. How many books did you write, you said? How old were you when you wrote these books? And lastly, again, the George Harrison review of All Things Must Pass, the remix and music review, Stuart Marino wrote, this dude is just another dumb liberal. Keep your politics out of music talk. I have gotten a handful of those kind of things because I do bring my politics in when I think it is relevant. And that's my opinion, what I want to do. So, especially around the early 70s and late 60s, politics was a big, big part of music. Obviously, in the All Things Must Pass, George's spirituality was an important part of his expression there. And even though I don't subscribe to his religion, I appreciate him releasing it, putting out, and I don't really mind that at all. And I don't mind that, and I don't mind the political side of it. So anyway, that was the comment section. I mean, not too cruel, I don't think. But I appreciate the comments, all sorts of comments. And I just don't understand, and maybe I'm not naive at all, but when some of these things, why people take the time watching several of my videos when they don't like them and they think I'm a pretentious hipster, old man prick with a hat. And fair enough. There's plenty of other videos on YouTube within the vinyl community, without the vinyl community, music makers, politicians, political types, spiritual types that you can watch. You can learn how to, replace the plumbing in your toilet as well. So Mazzy loves you on that. And let's move on to something else right now. This is boring me. Now here are a few records that I've gotten and CDs in the mail lately. Totally surprised by some viewers, but some friends I know who make YouTube videos as well. First, I want to start with my arch nemesis, John at Digital Gramophone. And I'll put a link to his channel below. I love John. He's going through his favorite 45,000 records right now. So that video is going to take us well into 2087 by the time he finishes that video. But he sent me this. This is a record that he really loves. And I had heard her name. I'd read an article about her in the New York Times recently. It's Amethyst Kaya, Wary and Strange. What a wonderful record, this beautiful record. I'd never heard a word, a song, a tune of her. I know she's been, promoted by NPR as well. So the intelligentsia, kind of Americana, Southern crowd is into her. I really don't know the whole history of her, but to give you a sense, it's kind of a folky, alternate singer-songwriter with a little bit of country and soulful sensibility. I hate to just kind of put her in. We all want to have comparisons, like where is this artist coming from? Who are the influences? From my point of view, the kind of artist that I've heard, obviously, is a little bit of a Tracy Chapman, a little bit of a Joan Armatrading, but it goes in a few more directions. Really nicely recorded. I think she's had music before this, but she's kind of, what I've read, she's finding her voice. But this is an interesting record, and it's a good record, and it's something to really kind of dive into. And the more I played it about 4 times now, the more I hear it, the more things I discover in it, and the more stylings I discover in it. So I don't know if that's a really great description of this. I know it's pretty vague, but thank you, John, for this. Amethyst Kaya, a recommended new record. Now, Trish Mullins, DJ Trish, one of the most genuine, wonderful people in the vinyl community. She does these wonderful mixtapes, and I get one like I think twice a year. I feel like I subscribed to her mixtapes. And there's always a lovely personal card. Here's her summer mix. This card was made by a friend. He's a great photographer. He talks about that and a few stickers. And she always sends these kind of fun little stickers that she has collected. Really kind of nice to get these. And I kind of recycle these things. Whenever I send packages out, I always add a sticker to it. So thank you, Trish, for that. So I haven't listened to these yet. These just came end of last week. And these are Back to the Beach 2021 Volumes 1 and 2. So we're getting out, this is kind of like a good summer mixtape. And there are songs like The Drifters, Jimmy Buffett, Fleetwood Mac, Albatross, love that, obviously. Johnny Cash, The Chili Peppers, The Drifters, Under the Boardwalk, what a great classic song. Talking Heads, Sugar Hill Gang, Tower of Power, You Gotta Funkifies, and so on and so forth. And thank you, Trish, for these. They're always appreciated. I pop them in when I'm working, or I pop them in a car. I think I have a last year they put a CD player in a car. So 2017 car, and actually has a CD player. So I bring these on the road, and when I do my drives, I include these. So thank you, Trish, for that. And then lastly, JJ, as JJ22 Explosive, and I'll put links to all these channels below. JJ2 Explosive Hits, Love S. Love you S. Love you, JJ. 2 things. This is cool. I'd never heard this record. I remember seeing this record, Phil Lesh and Friends. And this is from the early 2000s, 2002. Never heard this. I haven't played it yet. This looks like it's a signed copy. Yeah, Phil Lesh. Wow. I mean, I've seen all these various offshoots of the Dead growing up in San Francisco, and between Jerry Garcia, Phil Lesh projects, Bob Weir, Bobby, and the whatever they are now, I forgot. So thank you for this. Looks pretty cool, double CDs. And he sent me this, and this is one I almost got, and I didn't get it for Record Store Day. This is fantastic. This is Ramones, and this is live in 1980 in Australia. I saw them in 76, and I saw them about 79. I think that's the last time I saw the Ramones. So I haven't listened to this yet, but it's a live set. And I love that they've done this. And I don't know why I passed this on Record Store Day, but apparently it's a good thing I did because I appreciate this. Limited edition of 13,000, the 1980 tour of the fabulous Ram Ones. Thank you, JJ. I really appreciate it. Thank you all.
Hey, it's me. I'm still here. I've been working really late. So, but I want to have dinner and I'm starving and I need to have dinner. If you can, that would be so nice. Are you there? Could you? Okay, well, just, can you call me on my cell? You know the number, and maybe I should, alright, I was thinking maybe we could go to Lucy's. Are you there? Are you there? But sorry about previous message. You know, it's not like any big thing or what. I had that weird dog dream again, so I just thought I would throw that at you since you had some good notions about that cuckoo. Alright. Yeah. Like that. Eat with you maybe. Later, buddy. Are you there? Are you there? Hi again. Okay, it's just this dream that's bothering me, and I need your help with. It was the baby that I had was a dog, and it was our dog. It was, our child in it, but it was a dog, and we were very proud of it because he started talking right away. And so, even though it was a dog and it had fur and everything, we thought it was so beautiful. But it had teeth, human teeth, which was not very nice. But very soft, sort of velvety fur, and then right away he was speaking it. So we were very proud until we realized, then there was we were walking down a hallway, and then we were in a park, and there were other people with their children, and they were normal children, and then we realized, that I had given birth to a dog. Are you there? Are you there? And of course, in the dream, we were suddenly humiliated, and it was my fault, and I don't know why. I don't have to know if that has to do with go off or what, but I just think I need to go off with it, and I know you don't want me to, and I know that that's like a big deal and a fucking thing, but whatever. Let's just have a good dinner. I'm gonna have a margarita, and I know you're not supposed to mix and match, but it's just I think I just gotta get off of this stuff as soon as possible because I don't think it's really good for me, and I know you do, but I know that I don't. So, all right, I hope you're having a great day, and I hope this hasn't